One of the most pressing problems of our time is the proliferation of young men who have grown into manhood physiologically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually, relationally, don't have any idea what it actually means to be a man. It was never put forward as an example for them in any kind of good way. The rise of fatherlessness, male passivity just in general, and just the ever-increasing lack of good male role models has left an entire generation of boys in 30-year-old bodies who have no idea what it actually means to be a man. So in this video, I want to do what I can to help the situation by offering a complete guide to becoming a man. And I'm going to divide this up into 3 different levels. And for each level, I'm going to recommend 4 different books. One of those is going to be a book about what to do. The next one is going to be a book about how to think. The next one is going to be a book looking at the definition of masculinity and what actually is it that makes a man. And then the 4th one is going to be a story that exemplifies manhood and some trait of manhood that you should be wanting to emulate in your own life. So again, I'm dividing this up into a 101, 201, 301. And these are going to get progressively harder. If you haven't read any of these, I highly recommend just go through them in this level. If you start to read these and you understand them and you start to apply them to your life, it will build a framework and an understanding of what a man actually is and how a man should act, and will give you a guideline and a framework to start to put the pieces of your life into, and to build up yourself from being a boy into being a man, regardless of whether you are blessed with good examples in your actual life or not. Also, before we jump into it, all of these books are going to be listed in the description below. Those are affiliate links, so they help out the channel if you buy through there. You can also find the links for my books down there. And so yeah, go check those out. And if you're not, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. All right, let's do it. All right, level 101, book number 1, the book about what to do. This is going to be Make Your Bed by Admiral McRaven. Okay, this book, I don't actually have a physical copy of this book, but it is less than 100 pages long. It is literally so easy and simple. It's based on a speech that he gave, a commencement speech that you can actually watch on YouTube. And if 100 pages is too long for you, there's also a kid's version of it called Make Your Bed with Skipper the Seal. And so if you really can't even focus for longer than 3 minutes, you can pick up the kid's version of it because it's just as good. Okay, but this book is going to teach you the basics about what to do. The thing that I see with so many guys nowadays is I look at these college age guys, and it's like, bro, you can't even set an alarm and wake up to your alarm. You don't even know how to show up on time to something. You don't even make your bed in the morning. The most basic of things that you should do is wake up and put your space in order. If you're not waking up and making your bed in the morning, you're already setting yourself up for failure. And so this book is great because it's not long, it's not complicated, but it is unbelievably powerful. And it is a perfect place to start to guide you in these are what you should do. Whether you like them or not, whether you understand them or not, these are the types of things that a man does. He will stand up to bullies. He will make his bed. He will not complain when things are unfair. He will keep on pressing as hard as he can, even when it sucks, and he will never ring the bell. All these different lessons. It's divided up into 10 lessons. And again, this is just a perfect place to start to give you very, very concrete what should you do on a daily basis and how should you go about managing your life. So this is the first place to start. Highly recommend this one. Make Your Bed by Admiral McRaven. Okay, level 101, book 2, How to Think. This is going to be one of my favorite books ever, an illustrated guide to bad arguments. This book is the absolutely perfect introduction to critical thinking, to understanding logical fallacies, and to just helping to improve how you actually go about your thinking. Most of us do not think about our thinking enough, and so our thinking is very poor and very just slop, and it's not good. Our reasoning is not good. Our arguments are not good, and we fall prey to other people's arguments who are also not good and are unfounded and don't make any sense. This book is a wonderful primer, but is also just a wonderful reminder. I have read infinitely more complicated books than this book, and I still go back to this book all the time just because it's super simple, it's super down and dirty, and it has absolutely incredible illustrations and comics that make the principles stand out in just such a clear way that is just way, way better than some of 5 paragraphs of discussion in other books. This is an absolutely great place to start to shape your own thinking and to build your brain into more of a critical mode of thinking and understanding things logically and reasonably. So that's an illustrated book of bad arguments. That's the second book. All right, the third book for level 1 is going to be Dangerous Gentlemen by Victor Marx. I just recently posted a video going into this book in depth, so you can check that one out if you want. But this book is a great place to start of an understanding of what is masculinity. Victor is a wonderful example of true masculinity, of someone who walks in authority and not influence, and someone who understands that servant leadership is the only kind of real leadership, and someone who understands that masculine power is for protecting women and children and serving your community. This book is super easy to read. It is not complicated. He's not a super deep theological thinker on all this stuff. This book is really awesome, fast-paced stories and very applicable lessons from them. But the reason why I put this book first is because Victor is a just shining example of what it means to truly be a man, what it truly means to overcome hard and terrible, awful things. The abuse that he suffered in his childhood was just mind-boggling. But then also what it means to build something real in your life. And foundationally, Victor is a just very blatant and outspoken Christian whose only purpose in life is to serve the Lord. And you cannot ever become truly the fullness of a man without having that foundation. And he does not skimp on his message of that. So that's why this one goes into the level 101. Anybody could read it in a couple days, and Victor is just such a good example. Finally, the last book for level 101 would be The Story, and that is going to be Bendigo Shafter by Louis L'Amour. Basically, any Louis L'Amour would work. He is an absolutely incredible author and one of the guys that just every single man should read. Hands down, regardless, you should read Louis L'Amour. He's an absolute beast. But Bendigo especially is just a wonderful story because it is primarily the story of a young boy becoming a man. And it's the journey of how do other people know when you've gone from a boy to a man, and how do you know when you've gone from a boy to a man, and what is required to make that transition. Right? That's really the main focus of this particular book. And it's one of Louis L'Amour's a little bit bigger ones. It's 320 pages or whatever. But it is fast paced. It's easy to read. It's not one that you're going to get all bogged down in. And so I think it's the best place to start for the story of here is an example of what it means to go from being a boy into being a man. All right, so that brings us to level 201. We built a solid foundation with those first 4 books, and now we want to ratchet up the difficulty. We want to ratchet up the depth. We want to ratchet up the breadth of things that we're looking at, and we want to bring everything to the next level. So these next 4 books, here we go. Book number 1, What to Do, is going to be Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. Okay, now this book is second because if you are not already starting out by making your bed and taking some level of ownership at all, you can't start to take extreme ownership. If you won't even take basic ownership, extreme ownership ain't going to get you nowhere, right? You don't even take anything, right? So you have to have the basis of make your bed first before you can start to take extreme ownership. Extreme ownership, though, becomes this way of viewing the world where you're literally looking at every situation and you're saying, this was completely my fault. No matter what happened, no matter what went wrong, it was totally my fault. And you have to be, this is a 201 idea, because you have to be able to hold in your mind that this is not technically true. Right? Not everything is completely my fault, but this is the most helpful way to look at situations in the world, because if you look at it and you say it was completely my fault, it brings the focus back on what could I do to do something different to make this better in the future. Right? And that's way more helpful than trying to figure out, well, what can that guy do to make sure that my life is easier in the future? That doesn't get you anywhere, right? So this is a 201 idea, and it is fully reliant on the 101. You have to build the foundation to make your bed first, but then you can move into extreme ownership and you can start to look at everything in your life and say, okay, whatever happened was completely my fault. Now, what ideas does that bring up, and how does that lead me to how I can make things better and do things different next time so that I get a different result, or I get the result that I want. So the What to Do book for 201, Extreme Ownership, Jocko Willink. All right, now level 201, How to Think. This is going to be Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. Okay, now this boy, chunky. This is no joke, right? This guy is almost 500 pages, and it is some tiny text and it's some big graphs and all kinds of stuff. This is not a easy read. It's not inherently a insanely difficult read, but it is a very detailed read. But this book will help you start to understand the two systems that people use for thinking and processing information, right? So we have system 1, it's fast, intuitive, and emotional. System 2 is slower, more deliberative, and more logical. And you need to understand how those two work, when they are going to be engaged by default, and what the pros and cons of both of them are. This, again, is a level 201 thing. Unless you have started to lay the foundation of what does it even mean at all to begin to think critically, you can't understand this book, right? You have to have some level of understanding of what is good thinking, what is good reasoning, how do brains work, and how does an argument come about in the first place. But then you can take this book and you can start to way better understand how your brain works and how to apply it best in a particular situation, right? And start to understand the traps that you will fall into, and start to understand the ways that, most importantly in our day and age, the ways that people will try to deceive you and will try to trick you and will try to get you to understand things or accept pieces of arguments that actually don't make any sense, because they want you to use the first system when you engage with this argument. And instead, if you can look at it and go, no, this deserves a second system, I need to be more slow or deliberate, I need to think more clearly about this, then you can start to see all the logical fallacies and all the things that are wrong in the arguments of what these people are saying. So the How to Think book, Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. All right, now we've got our 201 Defining Masculinity book. That is going to be The Warrior Poet Way by John Lovell. I love this book. It is based on Thucydides' quote from way back in the day, where he says the society that separates its scholars from its warriors will have its thinking done by cowards and its fighting done by fools, right? So John's premise is that you are not supposed to be 50% warrior and 50% poet. You're supposed to be 100% warrior and 100% poet. And he is someone who very clearly exemplifies this and lives it out. And this book is kind of one it's kind of in the area of the what to do as well, because it's very practical and tactical in, hey, here's a bunch of the steps that you can take. But he goes much deeper into the understanding and the balance and the how do you live out fully being 100% warrior, but then also being 100% poet, right? So this one, again, John is another one of these guys who is a firm believer, but he doesn't push quite as much on the Christianity side in this. So we build on the foundation of Victor talking about the same stuff, but very much pushing if you are not submitted to Jesus, all this is pointless anyways. And then we bring it into John Lovell talking about here's even more practical ways that you start to build the warrior and build the poet inside of you, and how you become 100% of both of them and live out properly in each situation the warrior poet ethos, right? Because you don't want to be someone who's stuck in this trap where your thinking is done by cowards and your fighting is done by fools. That's never where any of us want to be. So yeah, The Warrior Poet Way, John Lovell. All right, and then our level 201 story is going to be this bad boy, The Count of Monte Cristo. This is level 201 because you ain't getting through this unless you're committed, right? But this book is incredibly fast-paced. It is very intricate and very interconnected, and it's amazing how he connects all these storylines and everything, but it is fast-paced, and this translation, especially the Penguin Classics translation, looks like this, is a very, very readable translation. I picked this story for a couple of reasons. One, it is a great place to start in the classics, and after you finish it, you're like, damn, dude, I mean, I read a 1,200-page honker, I can pretty much read anything at this point. I am a reader now, right? So that is a great place to start for that. Also, because this book, Edmond Dantes, is a wonderful example of masculinity gone right and masculinity gone wrong, right? So if you've seen the movie or you know some of the story, right, he gets unfairly imprisoned, he gets out of prison, and in one sense, he uses his masculinity well, and he goes and he becomes something, and he learns all this stuff. He gets this treasure, and he becomes this incredible guy, this incredible Count of Monte Cristo, right? And he's in some ways a shining example of what a man should be, right? But then he uses that all, and what was driving him to do all that is this underlying revenge motive, where he gets to the end of the book and he realizes this is not a good motive. I can't base my whole entire life off this thing. There's more to being a man than just doing manly things, right? And so this book is a great, great novel that just delves into so many of the areas of what it truly means to be good at being a man and to also be a good man, right? Because Edmond Dantes is one of those people where for a long time he's really good at being a man, and then at the end of the book he realizes how also to be a good man. Okay, so Count of Monte Cristo, absolutely killer book. All right, level 301. If you have made it this far, you have now gone from very, very basic things into much more advanced depth, breadth, width. Now we're really, really going to go deep in a bunch of this stuff, right? These are going to be books that are challenging to the way that you think. They're challenging to how you view yourself. They're challenging to your reading ability. These are going to be the books that have changed me the deepest, but that are the hardest to recommend to just anybody and everybody, right? So the first one, What to Do. This is going to be 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. Also, it's going to be basically everything by Jordan Peterson, but we're going to start with this one. And Peterson is not an easy writer. He is very clear, but he is very psychologist sounding for a lot of it. This book is not impossible to read by any means, but one of the things that he has gained a ton as he has written more books is his style has not changed dramatically, so it still sounds like Jordan Peterson, but the readability of them has increased a lot. So this is not a easy read, and it is not a shallow read at all, but it is a read that gives you, again, 12 rules, 12 very clear what to do things that will help guide you in each and every situation as things start to come up. These are principles that can guide you on what to do, how to act like a man in this situation, right? So first one, 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. All right, and then next up we have the How to Think book, and that is going to be one of my favorite books of all time, How to Read a Book by Mortimer Adler. This book is intense. Okay. I have had multiple people, including my wife, DNF this book and be like, I just don't want, nope, I'm done. Okay. This book is meta. I mean, it's a book about how to read a book, right? it's meta. Okay. But one of the reasons why I think this book is so incredibly important is that in the age that we are in, as we are going just headfirst barreling down into the age of AI, one of the most important traits that anyone can develop is the trait of wisdom. And the only way to develop the trait of wisdom is to develop the habit of deep thinking. And the best way to develop a habit of deep thinking is to develop the habit of deep reading. And the best guide to how to read deeply is this, How to Read a Book. It will challenge you. It challenged me. It literally changed my life and challenged me in so many ways in how I read and the way that I read and what I read and all of this, right? So this is a profoundly important book to change how you think, meaning to move you more and more into the realm of thinking deeply, because thinking deeply is the only thing that will lead to wisdom, and wisdom is going to be the most precious commodity that anyone can have, the most precious skill, the most precious talent, the most precious offering for a job. It's going to be the most rare resource in the world as we just continue to barrel headlong down into the age of AI and infinitely accessible knowledge, right? We're going to make another video about that at some point later. But yeah, this is the How to Think, How to Read a Book by Mortimer Adler. All right, level 301, Defining Masculinity. This is going to be The 5 Masculine Instincts by Chase Repelje. This book wrecked me more than I think any other book I have read about masculinity. Chase presented ideas in here that I had literally never heard or thought of before, and I made a whole entire video about this that I'll link up here. You should just watch that because it is profound, the insights in this book, and they are unbelievably deep and difficult and just things that deserve to be just wrestled with. This is one of the books that will have you wrestling with God and wrestling with what it means to be a man and the tendencies and the proclivities and the default attitudes and stuff that you carry as a man. I think this is one of the most profound books on masculinity that has ever been written. And but it's just not one that you can recommend it's not a level 101. It's not a level 201. This is a level 301 book. You cannot engage with this book unless you have done a bunch of work and gotten a bunch of the basics out of the way first. So until you've gotten the basics of the dangerous gentleman and the understanding of surrendering to Jesus being the main thing that will make that, until you've started to walk the path consistently of the warrior poet and done a bunch of the things, only then can you start to understand the traps and the pitfalls that you will fall into as you go along that path that he talks about in this book. It is profound book, and I freaking love it. 5 Masculine Instincts, Chase Repulgee. That's going to be our masculinity book. And then finally, the story for level 301. This one is going to challenge you the most simply because it looks like a girl's book, and it is. This is Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers. Francine Rivers used to be a romance author. She met Christ. She became a Christian romance author, which is like actual love stories and not, just smut. But this book, no other story has had more of a profound impact on me on learning to love my wife with unconditional love and love her the way that God asks to love her and love her the way that God loves me. This book is a novelization of the book of Hosea, where God talks about, Israel just being a whore and just playing the whore and playing the whore and playing the whore and going off to other lovers, and God continually bringing her back and loving her. And this book is a novelization where Michael Hosea does that. He falls in love with a whore, and she goes on whoring, and she breaks his heart 1,000,000 times over, and just does all the most terrible things that you could possibly think to do. And yet he chooses to love her unconditionally throughout the entirety of the story. I've read this book, I think, 3 or 4 times. It is one of my favorite novels ever. And it really is the most profound story that I have ever read. And no story, as far as my marriage goes, I have never read a story that has impacted my marriage more than this book. And so the way that you will learn how to treat women and how to value women, and especially to value the one that you are in relationship with, this book is just absolutely invaluable. And there you have it. That's it. 12 books, 3 levels. Yeah. If you've read any of those, let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you have books that you would add, what level you would add them to. And if you're going to start reading any of these and you want to pick them up, like I said, links are down in the description. Those are affiliate links. They help out this channel. And that's all I got. See you in the next one.